by choosing to boycott American goods. And that's exactly what the Europeans seem to be doing. They're boycotting American brands or products made in the U.S.
So what will happen is sales will decline. And when sales decline, you'll have layoffs, etc., which is unfortunate.
Around the world, a global rebellion is happening right now, and America may never recover from it. From the streets of Paris to the ports of Vancouver, people are rising up, not with protests, but with their wallets, their trade deals, and their silence. For decades, American culture reigned supreme. Whether you were in the heart of Tokyo or a village in South Africa, one thing was always certain. You'd find a KFC, a Starbucks, or a McDonald's glowing proudly on every corner. But now, something has changed. Since Donald Trump's return to office, his fiery rhetoric and aggressive trade tactics have set off an economic time bomb. He didn't just impose tariffs, he shattered decades of trust. What's truly shocking is that it's not Russia, China, or Iran leading the charge against the US. It's America's closest friends, Canada, Germany, France, Japan. They're pulling away one by one. In the third quarter of 2024, FDI in the United States totaled $72.5 billion, marking a 23% decline compared to the second quarter of 2024. This decrease may indicate a cooling in foreign investment enthusiasm, potentially influenced by evolving U.S. economic policies and global market conditions. In 2023, the U.S. experienced a significant decline in new FDI, with expenditures totaling $148.8 billion, a 28% decrease from $206.2 billion in 2022. All around the world, people are boycotting American products. It has now turned to a trend, and it is growing. What is even more scary is that this is likely to get a lot worse. We are talking about the US dollar getting dumped too, just like American products are right now. So before we dive deep into how the US is being quietly pushed out of the world it once dominated, hit that subscribe button. This channel breaks down the global shifts the mainstream media refuses to cover. You won't want to miss what's coming next. For most of the 20th century and the early 2000s, the US was admired around the world. It was more than just a country. It was a dream, a cultural leader. Young people from Asia to Europe wore Levi's jeans, waited in line for iPhones, watched Hollywood movies, and wanted to work in Silicon Valley. But now, in 2025, that admiration is disappearing, and fast. People, especially young adults, are turning away from America. We are witnessing something historic, something that future generations may study as the moment the American century finally began to slip. Not with a war or economic collapse, but with a cultural rejection so widespread it's hard to believe it's happening in real time. The United States, long seen as the lighthouse of culture, creativity, and consumerism, is being quietly yet decisively pushed away by a world it once captivated. This isn't a temporary backlash or a protest trend. It is a profound global shift in sentiment and identity. From Europe to the Middle East, and Asia to Latin America, countries are no longer just trading partners. They're cultural rebels, pulling away from the American dream they once embraced. Starbucks is being boycotted and losing money, not for quality or price, but as a conscious act of defiance. In South Korea, streaming platforms are prioritizing local dramas and limiting US content, while government grants promote domestic content creation as part of a cultural sovereignty initiative. Meanwhile, in Turkey and Malaysia, calls for boycotting American products have gone from online rants to government-endorsed campaigns. This is not just about trade, it is cultural deglobalization, with the United States at the center of the storm. The root of this rejection is deeper than one might think. Much of it can be traced back to the aftermath of the Trump administration's economic nationalism. While the Trump tariffs targeted steel, aluminum, and Chinese electronics, their ripple effect reached far beyond goods. Countries viewed these measures not just as economic policy, but as symbolic aggression. China responded with its own tariffs, yes, but it also stepped up soft power campaigns, investing billions into promoting Chinese media abroad. In the process, many nations began reevaluating their cultural alignment. Nowhere is this more visible than in the decline of American franchises abroad. Once hailed as leaders of global aspiration, brands like Starbucks, McDonald's, and even Levi's have seen their influence go down. Starbucks in particular is a striking example. In the late 1990s and early 2000s, Starbucks stores popped up in every major global city. A Starbucks in Tokyo felt like a Starbucks in San Francisco. Familiar, comfortable, predictably American. But that sense of admiration has disappeared. In China, Starbucks' market share has declined in the face of homegrown competitors like Luckin Coffee, which now surpasses it in both store count and growth. The Chinese government has openly supported domestic chains, framing them as patriotic alternatives. The cultural rebranding is so profound that even drink names are being rethought. Across parts of Europe and Latin America, names like Americano are being quietly removed or rebranded. Independent cafes in Spain and Argentina now offer Freedom Brew or Espresso Nacional. This renaming might sound like harmless marketing, but it is loaded with symbolism. By removing America from the menu, countries are sending a message. They no longer see U.S. culture as aspirational or neutral. They see it as a liability. Consider Italy, the birthplace of espresso and cappuccino. Cafe owners in cities like Milan and Florence have begun rejecting what they call the synthetic American coffee culture. They now promote authentic Italian traditions, and some have even placed signs on their windows stating, "No American coffee here." This is not just about taste, it's a rejection of what America represents. The newer generation, especially Gen Z, is driving this shift. Raised in an era of hyperconnectivity and political awareness, young people across the globe are increasingly questioning the cultural dominance of the U.S. They are choosing local brands, indigenous traditions, and even regional slang over American imports. And the trend doesn't end with coffee or clothes. Hollywood is losing ground too. Once the centerpiece of global cinema, American films are being outperformed in box offices from India to Saudi Arabia. In 2023, Bollywood's Pathaan outgrossed several major U.S. blockbusters in global markets. Meanwhile, China's own sci-fi epic The Wandering Earth 2 beat several Marvel films domestically and found a receptive audience in Southeast Asia. These aren't isolated cases. They're indicators of a broader hunger for cultural self-determination. The media landscape is equally telling. American news outlets like CNN and the New York Times, once considered global authorities, now face skepticism abroad. In Brazil and Egypt, they are increasingly viewed as biased or imperialist, while local outlets and independent journalists gain credibility. In some countries, American social platforms like Facebook and Twitter are being regulated more tightly, and their dominance is challenged by domestic alternatives like China's WeChat, Russia's VKontakte, or India's Coup. One might ask, if coffee, jeans, and movies are under siege, what comes next? The deeper concern is not just the erosion of soft power, but what that erosion signals. The global rejection of American culture is often accompanied by closer ties to rival powers, Russia, China, and even regional blocs like BRICS. As these nations assert their own cultural narratives, they fill the vacuum the U.S. leaves behind. This is more than symbolic. It reshapes trade, diplomacy, education, and even ideology. The United States is not just losing allies anymore, it is also losing trust, popularity, and global influence. A new global study by the Pew Research Center in 2024 shows a serious decline. Among young adults in G20 countries, only 54% now have a favorable view of the U.S. Just 10 years ago, that number was 62%. Donald Trump played a major role in damaging America's global favorability. He didn't just change policies, he changed how the world viewed the United States. His words, actions, and decisions created anger, confusion, and even humiliation for many longtime allies. One of the earliest examples came when Trump referred to Canada as the 51st state of the United States. What might have been meant as a joke deeply insulted Canadians. It suggested that their country was nothing more than an American extension. an idea that sparked public outrage, political pushback, and serious damage to diplomatic relations. Then came the infamous moment with Greenland. Trump openly said he wanted to buy the island from Denmark. When Denmark refused, calling the idea absurd, Trump canceled a planned state visit to Copenhagen in protest. But it didn't end there. Trump insulted Greenlanders directly, calling their economy weak and their land strategically valuable but otherwise empty. These words angered people across Denmark and Greenland alike. When Vice President J.D. Vance visited Greenland to smooth relations and explain Trump's comments, no one from the local government or civil society wanted to meet him. It was a cold shoulder, not just to Vance, but to the entire United States. And then, to make things worse, Trump launched a global trade war. He started slapping tariffs, special taxes, on imports from nearly every major trading partner: Canada, the European Union, China, Mexico, and even Japan. These tariffs were supposed to help American workers and revive U.S. manufacturing. But instead, they triggered retaliation. Other countries placed their own tariffs on American goods, hurting U.S. exporters. Even allies were shocked. Canada responded with sharp counter tariffs, targeting American steel, aluminum, and key consumer goods. The European Union hit back with duties on American whiskey, motorcycles, and jeans. What began as a tough trade strategy quickly turned into a worldwide backlash. Longtime trading partners saw the U.S. not as a reliable economic leader, but as a threat. Trump's America First message was taken by many nations as America only, and the global trust that took decades to build crumbled in just a few years. People no longer viewed the U.S. as fair or friendly. They saw it as unpredictable and selfish. The damage wasn't just political or economic. It was deeply cultural. Across Canada and Europe, people began to rethink their connection to American brands, values, and products. The insults to their identity, combined with harmful economic policies, made them feel disrespected and used. And once that emotional bond broke, consumer choices began to shift. People stopped buying American goods, not just because of price or quality, but because of principle. France has seen a big rise in buy local campaigns. Supermarkets are stocking fewer American snacks and replacing them with local brands. A major French consumer group recently reported that sales of American products dropped by 26% in 1 year. These are not small changes. Many stores are removing U.S. products for good. Official U.S. trade data confirm this trend. In 2025, U.S. exports of consumer goods to Canada fell by 11.4%. Exports to the European Union dropped even more, 12.6%. At the same time, imports from Asian and European companies are growing. The message is clear: the world is no longer interested in "Made in America." And this rejection goes beyond food, clothes, and tech. Even American military equipment, once highly demanded, is being avoided. Take the F-35 fighter jet, a symbol of American military power. While some countries like Poland and Japan are still buying it, others are cutting back. Portugal cancels F-35 contract because it does not trust Trump. Officials said they want to avoid relying too much on the U.S. In Switzerland, the public is pushing back hard against a big F-35 deal. Many citizens want to stay neutral and not get involved in U.S.-led conflicts. In Denmark, grocery stores began putting up "Buy Local" signs. In France, American fashion brands were quietly replaced with local ones. In Canada, the response was loud and clear. The Liquor Control Board of Ontario, which is a government-run alcohol seller, removed over 3,600 American products from its shelves. These U.S. alcohol products brought in nearly $1 billion a year. But the LCBO acted quickly and removed them without hesitation or apology. Europe followed. In Denmark, anger over Trump's attempt to buy Greenland led to public anger. Now, many Danes are choosing local products and avoiding American ones. This shift soon moved online. Hashtags like #Boycott USA, #Buy Made in America, and "Not with my wallet" started trending across TikTok, Instagram, and even local social media platforms in Europe. These weren't just emotional reactions. People were deleting American apps, scanning barcodes to avoid US brands, and switching to alternatives. This was an economic protest, organized through smartphones and shared across digital networks. The results are alarming. The American brand image, built over decades by Hollywood, Coca-Cola, Apple, and McDonald's, is fading. Once symbols of global aspiration, these icons are now seen by many as emblems of environmental damage, economic inequality, and cultural arrogance. What happens when a superpower loses not just its customers, but its cultural story? The question is no longer whether America can restore its image. It's deeper than that. Does the world even want it back? The answer, it seems, is increasingly no. Subscribe now and stay ahead of the global shifts that mainstream media won't show you, because what's coming next could change everything.